Hey kawan, welcome to EDCReady. Today I want to talk about budget knives and what makes a good budget knife. This is great for someone who is just learning to get into the world of EDC knives, or if you want to get someone else into the world of EDC knives, well, it's going to be a great first knife for them. So I have three really nice budget knife options for you guys, from cheapest to middle to the least cheapest of all these knives. First, we have the Ganzo F753M. Okay, this is a knife coming out of China. This is a QSP Parrot in D2 steel, also coming out of China. And then this is the Tangram Santa Fe, which is like a sister company to Kaiser, also coming out of China. So as you can see here, there is a trend. Budget knives, some of the best budget knives come out of China. And prices respectively, this is around 15-17 USD, or I got it here at around about 75 ringgit. This guy, the D2 version is coming in at about 25 USD, or I got it at thomastools.com.my for about 99 ringgit. Tangram Santa Fe, I think you can get it off of Amazon, from their Amazon store, for about 30 USD. I got this guy from a lucky draw from it's an Instagram contest. So let's talk about what makes a good pocket knife. Let's start with the basics. Let's start with the actual knife itself, which is the blade. So the blade's primary function is to cut. So if you are going to get a pocket knife, you want to get a blade that can cut. What does that mean? That means that the blade is not overly thick, it comes to a nice thin edge, and then you can easily cut through whatever you need to do, whether if it's rope or paper envelopes or foam or vegetables, even if you want to go that route. If you're going to go camping, you need to do some kind of woodwork or bushcrafting. That is what you're going to need. Now, in terms of what steel to get, that is down to your personal preference. Do you want something that is something that is harder, or something that is tougher? So in the world of knives, a hard steel means that they can keep its sharp edge longer, and toughness means that it can avoid chipping, or it is more resistant to chipping. That is toughness. And then the other spectrum you're looking at is the stain resistance. If you're looking at a knife that is stain resistant, that is more stain resistant, you can look at this guy. This is the 440C blade steel. In this case, we have the Japanese Akudo steel. Right there, yeah, Japan Akudo steel. You have other options as well. 14C28N is very good. You have 8CR 13 MOV, 9CR 18 MOV. Or that class of family. You also have VG10, also another budget steel. What else you have? Some slightly more expensive knives with slightly more expensive budget knives. You have 154CM, which is another great budget steel. Now, if you want something that has more of the hardness and toughness, then you're really the only real option you have in the budget end steels is D2. So D2 is a very good working steel. It's a very good tool steel, and it's a steel that is used and loved by many people who do a lot of hard work, whether it's bushcrafting, whether it's whether it's cutting through like burlap bags or whatever. D2 steel is going to be a favorite for a lot of people. I have a personal preference to steels that don't rust so easily, so I prefer that in these guys, the Japan Akudo or the 440C or the 14C28N. That's another great budget steel. VG10 is another great budget steel. Now, another thing you want to think about is blade shape. So blade shapes have slightly different functions. You have tantos that you can use for scraping. You have this kind of sheep's foot or Warncliffe style blades, which are great for pull cuts because it has a straighter edge. You have drop points, such as this guy, which is you can definitely do pull cuts, but you can, because of that belly that you have there, it's greater for rocking cuts. You have something in between, which is called a spear point blade. Okay, so spear point shapes are kind of somewhere in between, so it's kind of like more of a jack of all trades kind of blade shape. Moving back, another important element of a pocket knife, second only to the blade steel, is the lockup. If you do not if you're not getting a folder, if you're getting just like a little fixed blade like this guy, this is like a Kiridashi, then you do not need to worry about lockups. But if you want to get a folding knife, lockups are quite important. The only thing that's important, okay, let me rephrase that. The most important thing about a knife lockup is that it locks up safely. Okay, here's an example. Here is the G-Lock by Ganzo, which is very similar technologically to the Axis lock. Okay. Very good. It doesn't bend when you whack the spine. Let's look at this guy. This is a liner lock coming out of QSP. Very good. Nothing happens. Okay, it still locks up nice and strong. Now let's look at the Tangram Santa Fe. And then it fails the spine rack test. Now, how important are spine rack tests? Spine rack tests to me are just an indication of how well the lock is designed. Okay, but it doesn't talk about how the lock functions. Most of the time when you are using a pocket knife, you are going to be pushing in that direction. Not in the direction that it folds, but in the direction that it stops. So you have a little stop pin there that holds the knife, that holds the blade in place. So every time you're cutting in that direction, you're not like stressing the lock, you're stressing the stop pin. Most of the time stop pins have no issue, it's just a metal post on the inside there. But let's say something comes down hard on the knife. Let's say you are doing something that requires you to really push through a knife. Let's say you're cutting through some very hard cheese or cutting through some very frozen chicken and you want to press down on it. You might get a little something and then hit the top of it to kind of get through the material. In this case, there's a tendency that this knife will fail you because the lock here doesn't lock up properly. So just keep that in mind. You want to get a lock that is safe. This guy fails it. I still keep this guy around. This guy is still my favorite budget knife because of other features of the knife. And to be honest, I do not use this for any hard cutting. This is strictly a slicing something open kind of knife, and not something I'm gonna use I'm gonna use hard in any. I'm gonna use for very hard tasks in pretty much any situation. I got better knives for that. I have compression locks for that, which I will cover in a separate video. Okay, so next up, we want to talk about pocket clip retention. So the great thing about a pocket knife is that it goes into your pocket and you can carry it with you every day. You have deep carry pocket clips, you have standard non-deep carry pocket clips, you have pocket clips that are not deep carry but still okay, and then pocket clips that carry quite a bit shallow in the pocket. At the end of the day, my preference is that I want the knife to be as hidden as possible in my pocket. This kind of helps people stay more comfortable, they don't really see a knife. The advantage of a not deep carry pocket clip is that you do have a little bit more material to grab here and then pull out of your pocket. For me, I do prefer a deep carry pocket clip because it just hides a little bit better in your pocket. Next up is the retention of the pocket clip. Once it's in your pocket, it's got to stay in your pocket, to which all three of these knives have that ability. Some are a little bit harder than others, like this guy. This pocket clip is a little bit harder than this pocket clip. Pocket clip is a little bit soft. This pocket clip is still pretty hard, but they all kind of perform that same function. Last but not least, this is kind of like we're getting to the smaller aspects of a knife. We are looking at the fidget factor. So a lot of people who kind of get into pocket knives, fidgetability is important for them. G-locks are very fidgetable. It's exactly the same in terms of design as an axis lock. So you can definitely flick it out, you put it back, and then you get this kind of free dropper action, which is very, very nice. You can flick it out in many ways. You can pull the lock back. There we go, hold on. You can pull the lock back, flick it open. You can reverse flick it even. There we go. Liner locks are also fidgetable. You can flick it open like that, you can reverse flick it, you can switch it over to the other hand. Okay, but this is more of a geometry thing. Sometimes this cutout is a bit too shallow. Okay, and then you don't actually have good purchase on the thumb stud to kind of push it out on the other end. And then you do not have this ability to just swing it shut. You have to disengage the lock, and then you can just shake it a little bit and then it'll drop slowly. And then that's just a thing about liner locks, because once it's going down, you are going to get some kind of lateral pressure on the blade from the lock bar spring, from the lock bar itself. As with this guy, once you disengage the axis lock, it's free swinging. The only pressure you get is the washers holding it in, but there's no pressure from the lock bar, there's no spring tension or whatever. It kind of really swings by itself. It kind of swings quite freely like that. And then that creates a very, very nice fidget factor. One last thing to mention, let's talk about the handles. The handles can be made out of many materials. We have plastic or FRN. I do quite like FRN because there's a lot of things you can do with FRN in terms of the molding process. You have G10, which is the materials that you have here. G10 is another polymer. Also very popular, very grippy. Sometimes you do get micarta in the budget in the budget realm. Micarta is a very great material. It's actually cloth that is compressed together with resin and then pressed together, and then you have this this kind of material. The advantages of micarta is that it is going to be very grippy, and then as your hands get wet, it actually gets grippier, just like real cloth, because it's made out of real cloth, and then it has that kind of feature. So I really like that. That's again personal preference. I really like FRN because there's a lot more things you can do in terms of molding. It's also cheaper, it's lighter, it's a bit more flexible, which I do enjoy. G10 micarta, just great. A lot of people love micarta. Okay, so yeah, that's it. Oh yeah, one last thing, ergonomics. Ergonomics, I left it to the end because ergonomics is very much individualistic. It's more subjective than every other aspect of this. You can objectively say things about blades. You can objectively say things about pocket clips. You can objectively say things about handle material. But ergonomics is the most subjective of all the features. Like every knife is going to fit someone's hand differently. I can tell you what I like. I like to have a little bit of a finger groove here for my finger to go in. I like no finger grooves in the back here, so that kind of these 3 back fingers here can kind of flow freely. And I like a bit of a downturn in the handle shape because then it kind of, the roundness kind of fits into my hand a little bit better. In terms of the QSP, it is very much, you have the finger groove here, which I really like, but you also have this kind of like very long straight handle shape, and some people find that comfortable. I personally do not really find that comfortable, kind of because I like to choke up a little bit higher, and then when you choke up a little bit higher, this guy kind of presses into the palm of your hand, and then you kind of have a bit of an empty space here. For people who kind of hold their knives back a little bit like that, and then kind of hold it in a hammer grip, this is going to be a lot more advantageous to have a straight knife design, knife handle, ergonomic design like that. Okay, so yeah, just keep that in mind. Find out what you like and find out what's more comfortable for you. People with bigger hands tend to like a little, this kind of shape a little bit more. From my understanding, I have small hands, so this kind of like turn down design, especially for someone who likes to choke up a little bit more, a little bit higher, then you get this that actually fills the shape in the palm of your hand a little bit nicer. Okay, I hope you guys find that educational, and I hope that there was not too much information for knife lovers, knife newbies, or if you're finding a knife for someone special in your life. Hope this was very educational and you had time to absorb all the information. If not, just watch some more. Help me get more watch time in my videos. Thanks, and as always, stay ready.